today we're going to take a look at our third tool in the toolbox for solving, which is addition. And like I was saying at the start, you're probably going to like this one the most because it actually goes the fastest. So here's how addition works. I'm going to take the two equations, and what's going to happen is I'm going to add straight down. And sometimes that can work out really nicely for me. Like in the example up above, if I were to take those two equations that are lined up and add straight down. Here, this is like a 1x when I don't see a number in front. So 1 plus 3 would give me 4. Let me actually make this a little bigger so it's a little easier to see, even though you've got it there in front of you. But then what happens when I add negative 3 and positive 3y? They go away. 7 plus 9 is 16, and all of a sudden I got a one-step equation to do. This is nice. 4x equals 16. I got to divide by 4 to get x alone. Knock those out. X is 4. Woo! Okay. Basically, I'm done except for one thing. There's always two answers, x and y. Well, I know what x is already, but I got to figure out what y is going to be. So I can substitute that value into either of the original equations. Now, some of you may always choose that you use the top one. Some may choose the bottom one. It doesn't matter. So I happen to choose the bottom equation. 3x plus 3y equals 9. And what did I do? I plugged the 4 in where the x is at. So it kind of blends substitution into this a little bit. So I replaced the x with 4, and then I kind of worked the problem out. 3 times 4 is 12. Oh, and now I'm just trying to get y by itself, and I'm done. Minus the 12 to each side, made that go away. Divide each side by 3. And I got my y. I got my answer. So it is shorter than the substitution was yesterday. Okay, it doesn't have to graph, but there's still, a couple of steps to do. So when we get down to the bottom here, and again, just as a reminder, so we don't have confusion, okay, this is a note sheet. Note sheets, again, we use them on the quizzes and tests, but they don't need to be turned in. Every one of the problems that we do today, when it has to do with addition or subtraction, is going to have one of the variables that cancels out right away. So for every one of these problems, all you have to do is add down. And remind yourself, if I don't see a number in front of a variable, I just need to put a 1 there. So for my x's, 1 plus 1 give me 2 x's, but 1y plus a negative 1y cancels out, and that'll happen every time. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. And what's my one step to get x by itself? Right, perfect. Now again, I still have to solve for the other variable, and hopefully I can still see with all my scribbling what the original equations were. I'm just going to keep using the top one on all of these. That'll just be the easiest. That way we're all doing the same thing. So my top equation originally was x plus y equals negative 4. But I know what x is. It's negative 1. So I'm going to plug that in for the x. Negative 1 plus y equals negative 4. And what would my one step be now to get y alone? How do I get that negative 1 or that minus 1 out of there? Just add it. It's true. Negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. That's my y value. And if I want, I can even get it into a coordinate. It's always x and y. So you'd have to admit this is shorter than yesterday. So nothing going too bad here. So maybe what I've learned from doing number 1, that when I do number 2, and I add down. So let's see. 2 plus 1, okay, that's 3x. Negative 3 and positive 3y cancel, so maybe I'll be a little lighter in my cross out here so I can see it still. Don't forget my equals. 14 minus 11 is 3. So you'll always be down to a one-step equation by the time we get rolling here. My one step to get my x or y alone each time is always going to be to divide by 3. Not to divide by 3, but to divide. And that gets my value. Again, once I get that first value, just to be consistent, I'm just going to keep using the top one. If you choose to use the bottom one, you'll get the same answer. So if I say, okay, so 2x minus 3y equals 14, but I know what x is. So I'm going to take that 1, I'm going to plug it in where the x is. Notice I didn't touch the 2. The 2 is still going to be there. The only thing that replaces the x is that number. And once I get that, 2 times 1, okay, that's going to be 2. This one I got one extra step, so I had to multiply by a number, but that's no big deal. Want to work on getting the y term by itself. How do I get that positive 2 out of there? Subtract. And then again here, I'm multiplying by negative 3. So that last step is always going to be divide. Y is going to be negative 4. So I got a positive divided by a negative. And that'll get me negative 4. So again, don't let these throw you off. If I get something strange in there sometime. Now, it doesn't mean y is always going to be the one that cancels either. If I take a look at 3, and then we'll kind of start bouncing around a little bit here. When I go to add here, 3x minus 3x, the x's go away this time. Yep. The biggest thing that tends to get people on these is when they're adding, they tend to think it means the value goes up every time. It doesn't. Like here I have a negative 1y plus a negative 2y. It's like I spent $1 and then I spent 2 more. Now I spent 3. And again, if that's something that gets you, let the calculator help. Just do like negative 1 plus negative 2. Negative 9 plus 0 as I add down is negative 9. Make sure your equals doesn't disappear. And I say, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Because here, this is a negative 1 in front of my y. So I just do negative 1 plus negative 2. I was double checking on that. So then once I get that, I'm going to divide by that number I'm multiplying y by, which in this case is negative 3. Since negative divided by negative is positive, okay, I get my y value this time first. And like I said, I'm just going to keep using the top one. You can do what you like, but I'm not going to bounce around. I think that can just confuse people. So if I say, okay, I'm going to use the top one, this time I know what y is. So I'm going to eliminate the y, I'm going to plug the number in. But notice that minus sign is there. So don't forget the minus sign. This is very much detail-oriented. And then I'm like, okay, I need to get x alone. Well, I'm subtracting 3 from it. I got a plus 3, because then those are opposites. They'll cancel. Again, I got to watch my signs. This is negative 9 plus 3. If I owed somebody $9 and I paid them 3 back, now I only owe them 6. And since I'm multiplying by 3, I'm going to divide by 3. And we're good to go. So you kind of start to see that it's just kind of a pattern that develops. You know, add down, divide, get my first number. Substitute it in, add or subtract, maybe divide, and I'm done. So, I'm trying to see if we're going to have any weird ones show up here. I don't think so. Like the ones we were just doing on the front one? Where y? Okay. Where the x's cancel, we do y? Sure. Let's do number 6 here on the back. So here, when I go to add down, negative 2 and positive 2 cancel. This is a 1. So 2 plus negative 1, which would be like 2 minus 1, is y. Oh, that's nice. 1y, or just y. And 9 minus 6 is going to be 3. Now I'll do another one. This I didn't know I was going to get off this easy. Because here, since it's just y, I don't even have to do any more steps. Because 1y is just like y. I'd actually have my y value already. So I will make sure I hit up another one of these. Ooh, I'm going to do 8. I see an issue. Okay. So now, I'm going to take that top equation. And again, this is my y value. So it goes in where y is at. And kind of wipes my y out. Negative 2x 2, 3 equals 9. And now this is what I'm going to end up trying to simplify. Once I plug it in, I can do 2 times 3, which is 6. Then we're going to minus the 6. And ooh, we look at this and go, ooh, something must have gone wrong. I got a decimal answer. No, we're doing it right. Divide by negative 2. Sometimes you may get a decimal. And that's okay. Okay, don't let that throw you off. Don't let that kind of send you on a loop in case you get something that ends up being a decimal or a fraction. That's not a problem at all. And just to prove that point, I got one more I want to do. I want to do 8, and then I'll talk a little bit about the assignment, and we'll kind of review a couple of things there if you need a little help. When I do 8, okay, not unusual at the start, my 4x and negative 4 cancel. But here's where it gets interesting. Negative 2 plus 4 is 2. Negative 1. Huh? Okay. I'm adding down, so 4 plus negative 4 cancels. Oh no, I'm just pointing in too many directions. Okay. Negative 2 plus 4 is going to be 2. And then negative 1 plus negative 2 is negative 3. So this would be the first time when I solve this one, I get a decimal again. Again, that's okay. We have a calculator, it's no big deal. So I get negative 1.5, negative 1.5. So I'm still, for my second part, going to just recopy my first equation. This is my y value. So it just takes care of the y, nothing else. So 4x minus 2, negative 1.5. And again, the decimals should never be an issue because the calculator can take care of them. Negative 2 times negative 1.5 is positive 3. You can double check me on the calculator if you'd like. And then I want to get the 4x alone. So I do my opposite. I minus the 3. They go away. So I end up with 4x equals negative 4. And I divide by 4. And I'm good. Okay, so don't let decimal answers mess with you. And again, this is a note sheet. Okay, this is just for some helpful hints, whether it's the homework assignment or the quiz next week. So make sure, again, this stays in a safe spot. So this is fair game when we get to that quiz. Now, in using it now, we put this off to the side. Our getting it right packet here, okay, splits up what we did yesterday with what we're doing today. So we kind of see a little bit of both. So it gives you a worked out example up at the top. And then when we get to the bottom, so just as a reminder, do one of these, we'll kind of get you kick started. Look for the equation that says either y equals or x equals. We're going to box the other side, just like we did yesterday. So here on number 1, it says y equals, and I got the box. So this goes in for y and wipes that out. So my first step is 2x plus, there's my x plus 3. There's no number to multiply it by, so I'm not going to worry about parentheses. Equals 9. So the y went out, what's in the box went in. I remember there's a 1 in front of that x if I don't see it. So I got 2 x's. Put one more in there, gives me 3. And now it's just a regular old equation to solve for x. Get that plus 3 out of there. Divide by 3. I get my x. And again, there's still always going to be an x and a y working here. So my second step should be the easy one. Y equals x plus 3, but I know what x is. X is 2. And that's why I like using the colors, so I can literally see, oh, that's the number I'm plugging in. That's where that came from. 2 plus 3 is 5, and I'm done. For those of you that were experts yesterday, sweet. First part's going to be a piece of cake for you. Because that's what we're going to do on each of those. And you've still got the examples that we did from yesterday to kind of help out there too. Now, as we start looking into the middle, because the first, I believe it's 6, I'm going to flip here for a second. Yep. The first 6 questions are all going to be that way. Oh, excuse me, I take that back. First 8. And then there's an example for the elimination, and the back sheet where there's 6 questions are like what we're doing today. So the back page is like today. I want to do one more of the elimination problems. Excuse me, the substitution problems. What's my deal today? So on the back of that first page, I'm going to look at number 6 here. So I want to make sure, because we did one on the other side where you just plug it in and go. I want one where you actually have to distribute. So it's y again. So in this case, I'm going to plug it in right there. Step 1. Negative 3x plus 4. Since I'm going to be multiplying this by 4, I'm going to use parentheses. Okay, the only time I have to do that is if there's a number in front of the variable that I'm substituting for. And when that does happen to happen, like a situation here, I have to distribute, I have to multiply that number through to both terms, not just the first one. So it doesn't change my negative 3x, but it does change I have 4x. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Okay, and that one extra step is the only difference, because now I can still combine my like terms. Negative 3 plus 4 is just 1 for plain old x. You can put the 1 if you'd like. And my only step left now is to do the opposite of minus is 20. Just add to it. And I'm good. My step 2 is the easy one. I know what x is now. So y equals, my x is 10. I just figured that out. Minus 5 gives me 5. And I'm done. And just like we've done the first couple of days, there will be answers up tomorrow, because I've got the answer to yesterday's up there. I'll put them in coordinate form, but if you just write them x and y, that's perfectly fine. Like I said, I'll always have the keys up here in front. I got a binder up here now. It says Algebra 1 homework keys. So if, you either get done a couple of days later and it's, it's not up on the board, you always can check your answers up here to see how it's going. And if something's not working, just talk to me. I'll make sure that we get you on the right track. So that's kind of the route we're running here. We've got about 20 minutes here, so some of you probably started knocking this out already. So just kind of work through those, and we should